All right, let's talk about a different kind of war. This one isn't fought with soldiers or ships, but with code and keyboards. We're going to break down the anatomy of the cyber threats facing Indonesia, looking at who's attacking, how they're doing it, and what's being done to fight back. You know, in the 21st century, the whole idea of a front line has changed. A country's security, its entire economy, the way we live our daily lives, it can all be thrown into chaos by someone thousands of miles away with nothing more than a laptop. And that completely flips the script on what national defense even means. It's not just about guarding a physical border anymore. Now it's about protecting the digital heartbeat of our society. And listen, this isn't some far-off sci-fi problem. It's happening right here, right now. And this stuff has real-world consequences that many of us have actually felt. I mean, think back to that attack on Bank Syariah Indonesia in 2023. People were locked out of their own money. Or, more recently, that ransomware hit on the national data center that caused absolute chaos at airport immigration. These aren't just headlines. They show how fragile our most important services really are. Okay, so who's actually behind these attacks? And what are they really after? Let's pull back the curtain and get a look at the enemy's playbook. The data tells a really interesting story. Take a look at this. The #1 target by a long shot is public administration. We're talking nearly 35% of all threats seen on the dark web. That tells you something huge. This isn't always about a quick payday. They're hunting for sensitive national data. And what are they actually selling in these dark corners of the internet? Well, it's pretty clear. A staggering 88% of it is just data, leaked databases. Getting into the system is one thing, but the real prize, the actual product being sold, is the information itself. And here's the grim reality of what that looks like. This is an actual screenshot. For $100, just $100, someone is selling a database of Indonesian citizen data. We're talking national ID numbers, personal information, our collective identity being sold off like it's nothing.
So how are they getting this stuff? A lot of the time, it's through a pretty simple trick called phishing, but they're getting smarter. You know how we were all taught to look for that little padlock icon to know a website is secure? Well, that's the myth. The reality is that attackers now use that secure connection on nearly 60% of their fake login pages. They are literally weaponizing the very symbol of trust we're told to look for.
And once they're inside, one of their most powerful and destructive tools is ransomware. It's basically digital extortion, and it's absolutely critical that we know who we're dealing with. Now, when you look at who's actually launching these ransomware attacks, it's a bit of a surprise. You might hear the big names like Babuk, but look at this. Over 63% of attacks come from a whole bunch of smaller, different groups. This makes the threat so much harder to track. It's not one big monster, it's 1,000 little ones running around. And don't think for a second that these are just faceless hackers. These groups build brands, they have names, they have logos, they cultivate a reputation in the criminal underworld. Putting a face to the threat, even if it's just an avatar, helps us remember we're dealing with organized and very motivated people. So let's run through the most wanted list. You've got Babuk2, sometimes known as Bjorka, who has a history of going after the Indonesian government. Then there's Fog Ransomware, which often targets the education sector, hitting weak spots in their networks. And then you have the biggest one of all, Lockbit 3.0. These guys are known for double extortion. It's a nasty tactic. They don't just lock your files, they also steal a copy and threaten to leak it to the whole world if you don't pay up. The damage from all of this isn't just about causing chaos. The financial cost is absolutely staggering. Let's look at the numbers for a second. Get ready for this. By 2025, the projected annual cost of cybercrime around the world is $10.5 trillion. Let that sink in. Trillion. That's more than the entire economy of most countries. We're witnessing one of the largest transfers of wealth in human history. And out of that huge number, just one piece of the pie, ransomware, is expected to cause $265 billion in damage a year by 2031. It just shows you how profitable this is for the criminals and why this threat isn't going away anytime soon. So, faced with this massive, growing threat, what's the plan? We've seen the problem from every angle. Now let's talk about the solution and how the nation is gearing up to defend itself. So meet the cyber cavalry. In Indonesia, the lead agency in this fight is the BSSN, the National Cyber and Crypto Agency. These are the folks officially in charge of building and leading the defense of the country's entire digital world. And they have a formal game plan. For 2025 to 2029, they've laid out a clear four-step approach. First, you set the vision. Second, you create the actual rules and laws to back it up. Third, you make sure it has the funding to actually work. And fourth, and this might be the most important part, you develop the people, the human experts needed to win this fight. A national strategy is absolutely essential. But here's the thing. This battle isn't just for the government. National security is built on personal security. So what can you actually do? Here are 5 really powerful things you can do to build your own personal cyber shield. Start using multi-factor authentication everywhere you can. Back up your important data. That takes all the power away from ransomware. Really learn how to spot a suspicious phishing email. Use good security software. And finally, just talk about it. Help make security a normal part of the conversation at work and at home. All these little actions add up to a much stronger defense for everyone. And remember that last point in the BSSN's plan, developing people? Well, their own report highlights this wild global statistic. An estimated 3.5 million cybersecurity jobs are sitting empty this year. Think about that. That's a huge national vulnerability for sure, but it's also an incredible opportunity for a new generation of digital defenders to step up and be part of the solution. So the nature of conflict has fundamentally changed. The front line is no longer a place on a map. It's everywhere. The digital battlefield isn't coming, it's already here. The only question left is, are you ready?